don't, I can't say forever, but it works for me. And I think like a lot of people, when they hear that I got sober at 21, they think like, wow, don't you think maybe you were just sowing your wild oats? Like, who isn't an alcoholic at 21? But for me, because I was so overweight and then it transitioned to kind of the other stuff, like I just had enough data to support that I overdo shit. Like I can't handle it. I need moderation. And when I do, I get to be on wonderful podcasts like Drinking Bros. And when I don't, I'm, in more compromised positions.
This is an extremely compromised position, just to be clear.
I'm ready. Good.
Yeah, this show definitely is, man. Another crazy story you told in this book was about the Red Dawn remake. And I thought that was fucking hilarious. How you were like, dude, I'm an action star now, and I need to train with Navy SEALs. One of the lines in here was, I probably trained with one of the guys who killed bin Laden. He's actually a buddy of ours, and I can tell you definitely didn't train with him because he's not that athletic.
Solid.
You wouldn't be able to pick him out of a lineup.
Oh, at all.
Honest.
You wouldn't, he looks like he's just a ginger-haired guy where you're like, oh, I might have seen him on St. Patrick's Day, but he doesn't look like he's worked out a day in his life.
But that's what I like about SEALs, right? They usually are somewhat unassuming. I mean, they're usually pretty built, but I like that. Like, I remember the two Navy SEALs I worked out with, Dave and Logan, shout out. Like, Dave was probably 5'6" and looks like he would like be the one climbing through like air conditioning shafts at embassies. And then Logan was like this 6'7" Adonis sniper who looked like he could break me in two. And I was like, both of you guys, I'm sure, had your applicable roles in our fighting forces. But yeah, I mean, so I lose all this weight, and like I'm all I want in life is to not be the kid actor and to not be the funny fat guy, but just to be an actor, like without any sort of like prerequisite. And I do the whackness, like you said, and I'm like, wow, like this is possible. And then I get this role. It's like the action star, and I'm like, there we go. Finally, like I've willed this for myself, except I was totally unprepared. It was ridiculous for me to play Chris Hemsworth's brother. I don't know who made that choice. And I'm just like there failing at being trained by these Navy SEALs and trying to look like a real man. And in doing so, completely just came off like a jerk off and basically just ruined it for myself. Like I just look, the movie's fine. I'm not great in it. Mostly people don't even remember it in general, but it just stuck out to me of like, wow, you got the opportunity and you nosedived this into a hot dumpster fire.
Yeah, because you bring up that numerous times about what a dumpster fire it was and how bad the reviews were for just your character in the movie. And
there were a couple, yeah.
And the wild thing to me was like, you didn't have to tell any of these stories in the book. No one would have ever known. That could have stayed way down deep inside. I mean, you share like the most fucked up shit about your life that no one would have ever known. You could have taken it to the grave. Why do that? Why make that choice to do that?
Oh man, now that you say it like that, you're so right.
No, he's completely wrong. It's the same reason that remember Josh Hamilton, the baseball player?
Yes.
He was a crackhead.
Yeah,
remember that?
Great baseball player.
And he would just tell people like, yeah, I was a fucking crackhead. And then fans of the opposing team would yell at him, you're a fucking crackhead. He's like, I know, dude, I said it first. Like you completely rob people of their ability to get inside of your head if you just put everything in your head on the table.
Well, the way I look at it, being a writer, I'm like, man, there's certain stories that no one would have ever known. And you decided to, really lay it out. The Red Dawn shit, you went into like your looks and your facial expressions and all the shit you did wrong. So like, it's almost like you're tempting people to go back and watch Red Dawn now and be like, oh shit, dude. Yeah, he was fucking terrible in that. I haven't seen it, by the way.
It's I guess I did. I just, look, I know it's mushy, but like the only way I've been able to get through life has been people who have been a few steps ahead of me going like, I was exactly where you were. Like, I was embarrassed beyond belief. I felt lost. I felt like I had, hit my peak, and that I had a specific moment years ago where I had to call a buddy and just feeling like in frustration with life and career and whatnot. And him to literally tell me like, Josh, like your life has been an anomaly. You can't judge your life because you had this great success as a kid. And now like why hasn't it, just compounded itself and compounded itself? He's like, so it's a long way of me saying I've needed the help of others, of people being vulnerable and sharing their stories and their trials with me. And I felt in this unique position because most people who write these books are like at the mountaintop. Like, McConaughey crushes it so hard. I see his book on your table. Like,
Yeah.
And my story is 100% different. And yet I hope that it's slightly accessible because I'm not that crazy superstar. I'm just a guy who's done well in certain areas. And I'm kind of giving you my truth.
Yeah, McConaughey was on the show promoting his book with us, and he had kind of said some of the similar things where he was just like, I just decided to drop a bunch of stories, like everything about my life, and then just see what happens with it in case somebody else is going through the same thing. Because he had some fucked up shit in his too, where, getting hit in the head with a rock and all this other stuff, dragged into a van. It's a wild book if you hadn't read it, but... it was the same thing where I was like, dude, nobody would have ever known those stories. And it was just like, I just felt like it was time. What about this moment that you're currently going through makes it feel like it's time to tell all these stories? Is there anything significant, like being a father? What was it exactly?
I think probably being a father's part of it. I think the fact that I'm 35 and I felt like this inflection point, because like over the last few years, I had a lot of, I've been lucky enough to have some great success professionally. But most importantly, like I'm married with a kid and I'm like, wow, I'm kind of reasonably happy. Like the data would suggest that there's a good chance things will work out if I don't fuck it up. Mm-hmm. And I felt like if I didn't write the book now, I couldn't talk with like such a fresh awareness of what those 20s felt like, of what these moments were, like how fresh it was in my mind, that I'd be talking about it from a different perspective, that of a guy who's 45 and 55 and maybe at the mountaintop eventually then. So I wanted this book to be this like reluctant memoir that's really just like a bait and switch self-help book written from a guy who's sort of halfway through it.
Yeah, because I'm friends with still a few child stars who had, a lot of success as a child like you. Half of them made it, half of them didn't. And it's a crazy world to be in at that age, especially out in that town. Yours was slightly different because you were there, and this is my guess, because of how funny you were, not because of your looks, at 297 pounds, Josh.
Come on, that's a fetish.
You said it numerous times in here, so I'm gonna reference it. But why do you think so many people didn't make it? And I know you've worked with Amanda Bynes and them, and you look at what she's going through now. What is that break later on in life? Because that's what I've been trying to figure out with most of these child stars. Because it doesn't happen right away as a kid. It seems like it happens maybe 10 years later.
I can't speak to the Amanda thing except to say, like, she's so wildly talented. And she was when I met her when we were 14. And I was like, oh, you're 6 months older than me, but you're like so far ahead of me in skill and ability. And I still think she's incredibly talented. So I think I just always want her to win. And I think she can win because I think there are certain actors that, for me growing up, like there were people who, to your point, like got by a little bit on their look or acuteness or precociousness in being a young kid. And they think that's going to carry them. And for me, it was like, I was lucky that even though I didn't know my dad, like I had this really rock solid mom who looked after me 100% and didn't let people fuck with me in this very adult business when you're a kid. And it can certainly lead to some, it can be hard to have to be in a professional setting as a young kid because you're not really allowed to have a bad day, and I think that can weigh heavily on you. So I was lucky to have my mom, and then I just, I talk about in the book, like I've been in acting class since like I was 14, like on and off. Like I'm constantly working on this thing. I can't stand it. I can't stand that I'm not great at it still after 20 years, or I'm great every now and then sometimes I'm just very mediocre. But I'm obsessed with this thing. And I think it's the thing that saved me because I think that most people in my position are into the billboards or something that's not the work.
Yeah, I agree. And with the Amanda Bynes thing, I said this on another show. I had a dinner with her a while back, and maybe a long time ago, maybe 10 years ago. And I was completely shocked at her breakdown because that was one of the most business-minded people I had ever met. And she was super type A, and like it seemed like she was going to have her own production company and be like a Reese Witherspoon type. And then there was a break somewhere along the way. And I'm just as shocked as you were because she was crazy talented. Her show, she was doing sketches like, you know, SNL type sketches at a real young age. And I was like, fuck, dude, this girl's unstoppable. And then something happened, clearly.